can see and hear me well. Today we're going to have a short version of a lecture, so-called lecture brief. And now I'm going to share my presentation with you. So the course name is Service Logistics, and I'm the lecturer, logistics-лекция6-англ. So today we're going to have a regular lecture outline. At the beginning, we're going to have an overview of the previous lectures, this time a very short one. Then we're going to start a lecture, which is a lecture of week 6. The topic is supply chain and logistics management. At the end of the lecture, I'm going to give you an assignment. So before we start the lecture, I just want to briefly say that logistics management is a part of supply chain management. If logistics management studies general flow of information, product, and money, and etc., supply chain management studies general value creation. So the supply chain management is a more broader topic, which today we're going to study. And also at the beginning, we're going to cover the development of the logistics study and how the logistics management turned into supply chain management in the 90s of 21st century. So during the previous lectures, we have covered the term logistics and many other concepts. I hope you all remember that. So the logistics is the process of planning, implementing, and controlling procedures for the efficient and effective transportation, storage of goods, including services, and related information from point of origin to the point of consumption. As we remember, we mentioned that in service logistics, it is quite difficult to find where is the point of origin and where is the point of consumption, because we have like reverse logistics. That is why we say that in service logistics, we have like end-to-end study. So it differs from which end you start studying. Okay, we mentioned that logistics was developed within the military science. Today we're not going to cover that, but what is important, we mentioned that the study of business logistics originated in 60s. So today we're going to see how it evolutionized, how it developed, and general evolution of the study. What is also important to mention, as we said, in service logistics, we have touch points, and we mentioned that in service logistics, we have like a reverse information flow, which is going to be important. And today I'm going to show you a diagram that is going to kind of visualize what we were talking during the previous lectures. So week 6, supply chain and logistics management. So the evolution of the scope of logistics changed over time. In early 60s, we can say that logistics was fragmented, and those fragments were about its functional parts, and then those fragmented elements of logistics started to combine, and later on emerged into larger science, which we today know as business logistics or just logistics. And today we see that the scope is widening. We have the supply chain management, and also today we're seeing the process of automation, which most probably will evolve the topic, and maybe in the future we're going to see an emergence of another science. So as we said before, logistics originated in 60s. I mean, the modern day business logistics. It was due to the development of the economy. It was due to the end of the Second World War and economic growth, which came after that. But still in 60s, logistics was highly fragmented. Then during the 70s and 80s, there was a process of composing logistics, but still the scope of logistics remained relatively similar, and then it started to consolidate and like developed into a larger science. But only in 90s, yeah, the process moved further due to the globalization and functional integration, and the logistics science emerged later. Yeah, in the 2000s, yeah, so at the beginning of 21st century, uh, due to the development of information and communication technologies, the supply chain management emerged. Yeah, it also integrated like control of information, finance, and goods flow. Yeah. Also, nowadays we see the growing level of automation and digitalization. So here we have a very informative diagram. Here we can see that in the 60s, the like scope and general the logistics was fragmented, and it was all about the elements, functions of logistics. For example, we have like demand forecasting, purchasing, which is about procurement, requirement planning, production planning, manufacturing, inventory, warehouse, materials handling, packaging, goods inventory, distribution planning, order processing, transportation, and customer service. Later on in 70s and 80s, there was a process of consolidation. Several elements of fragments of logistics like consolidated into one kind of science, which was about material management, and the other one was about physical distribution. From marketing, we know that distribution is about one of the 4 Ps, yeah, marketing mix. So the place is about physical distribution, and it was covered by the like different study, which was called physical distribution. But warehousing, materials handling, and packaging was still an independent like element and independent field of study. In 90s, there was a full integration. So all the fragments, all the elements of modern day logistics, like consolidated into one science, which was then called logistics. And we started studying like logistics management, which was about planning logistics, it was organizing logistics, it was like leading logistics, and it was controlling logistics. But in 2000s, the scientists, the scholars decided and understood that logistics was not only about the flow, yeah, of uh, like goods, of information, and of money, and of course of personnel, but it was also about the value capturing, value creation, and etc. That is why the supply chain management emerged, which started to include information technology, marketing and sales, strategic planning, and finance. And today in Russian, when we talk about logistics and logistics management, we talk about the supply chain management and logistic management altogether. And in 2010s and today, like starting from 2020, we can say that there are many changes are happening in logistics, and most probably we're going to see that like the scope of logistics will widen again, and maybe we're going to include many other elements and functions of logistics in the future. And now let's stop on the definition. So the supply chain management is the management of the flow of goods and services, and includes all processes that transform raw material into final products. So here we can see that like value capturing or value adding happens here, because we have raw material, which has a smaller cost, and at the end we have a final product, which value is way higher for the final customer than the raw material. That is why the scientists started to see supply chain not just about the flow of goods and services, but also as a process of transforming raw materials into final products. So it involves the activities, streamlining of a business supply side activities, yeah, to maximize customer value. Here, value is very important. Please remember that. And gain a competitive advantage in the marketplace. So here we can see that supply chain management is today about the activities done and made to maximize customer value and gain the competitive advantage in the marketplace. So the supply chain management is based on the idea that nearly every product that comes to the market results from the efforts of various organizations that make up a supply chain. Here, what is important is that when we talk about logistics, we can talk about logistics within the organization, but when we talk about supply chain, we talk also about the suppliers. And we see that the market and the company is not only about, for example, our or particular company, but it is also about the suppliers and so-called micro external environment, as we know from marketing. So supply chain management represents an effort by suppliers to develop and implement supply chains that are as efficient and economical as possible. So in supply chain management, we also should remember that we talk also about the suppliers, about the companies that surround our company, and are related to that. So supply chain covers everything from product development to the information system needed to direct these undertakings. Here we can add that we also have finance flow of money that is important for the supply chain management and to the logistics as well. So supply chain management attempts to centrally control or link the production, shipment, and distribution. Shipment is about transportation. We also have inbound and outbound logistics. We have production. We're going to cover that a bit later at the end of this lecture. But still, here I would like to say that the supplying, or purchasing or procurement is important too. So as a supply chain management also links not just production, but the supply chain, production, transportation, shipment, and distribution, how we sell the product. By managing the supply chain, companies are able to cut excess costs. So we can make sure that our product costs less, and that is why more valuable for our potential customer or the target customer, and deliver products to the consumer or customer or the guest in the case of hospitality faster. So here we have the aspects of supply chain management. So the supply chain manager coordinates the logistics of all aspects of supply chain, which consists of 5 parts, like the planning or strategy, sources, raw materials, services, manufacturing, focus on productivity and efficiency, delivery and logistics. This is about distribution, and the return system for defective or unwanted products. Here, I would like to say that in many companies that are developed and innovative, for example, the Apple, they have their own way of return system. And after they check the product, they do not sell it as a new one. They try to sell it as the refurbished one, which is like half of the cost of the product, but still functioning well and kind of, cheap. So, make sure that sometimes when you buy something cheaper, that it is a new product, but not the refurbished one. But usually you can find it out by seeing the package. In the package we have the cost, and the warranty. So usually the refurbished products that were returned due to being defective or unwanted, they have a shorter period of warranty. So here we have the logistics management. We should remember that logistics management is part of supply chain management and supply chain engineering that plans, implements, and controls the efficient, effective forward, or sometimes backward, and reverse flow, which is the backward, and storage of goods, services, and related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption to meet customers' requirements. So here, as we can see from the definition, logistics management is about all the things that are done within the organization, and supply chain management also studies the wider perspective. So the objective is, as we say, the right time right place, right quality, and right price. So, and this is all about the product, raw material, and etc. So we should make sure that by transporting, delivering, or shipping the product, we ship it and deliver it at the right time to the right place, right quality, so it is not defective or unwanted product, and right price, so economically efficient and making the profit for the organization. So also we should cover like inbound and outbound logistics. So inbound logistics cover the activities concerned with the obtaining material and then handling, storing, and transporting them. So inbound logistics, what goes into the production. So it's about raw materials, ingredients, for example, in the case of restaurant, different cleaning stuff, yeah, like equipment could be, etc. Whatever comes into the system, into the algorithm, or into the production. Outbound logistics, it basically is the outcome, the product, and how we like distribute it. So outbound logistics covers the activities concerned with the collection, maintenance, and distribution to the customer. Sometimes, of course, we have like retail stores and etc. So it's not going to be the direct distribution, but sometimes we have the direct distribution to the customer. So we can have indirect like distribution system and direct distribution system, but that's a part of marketing. So here we have like the diagram that shows us how it works. We have inbound logistics that comes into the production. We have outbound logistics, which comes out of the production. So inbound logistics, as we said, is about the raw materials, ingredients, and different supplies that are necessary for the production. And outbound logistics is about like the product, the outcome, the service, which comes out of the production and goes to the customer. So it is basically about taking a product ready to consume and sending it through via various distribution channels to the customer. And of course, we have the reverse logistics, which is about information logistics in hospitality and in services. This reverse logistics is very important because in services we consume and like produce or prepare the product at the same time. That is why the production and the consumption start at the same time. And the starting point is the moment when the customer, the guest, in the case of hospitality, makes an order. So order happens somewhere here. Yeah. So at the end of the regular supply chain and ends here. Yeah. So at the end. So the customer, for example, the guest of a restaurant comes to the restaurant and orders, takes the menu, looks at it and orders something. Yeah. And the waiter then is going to like send the information to the kitchen. Yeah. And of course, if the customer has some difficulties, some different things, if he or she wants to have, for example, a product without onions, dish without onions, etc., that should be written and sent. Of course, we're going to cover all these things later on because it's about bottlenecks and a lot of problems that is going to be covered, and then goes to the kitchen preparation, and then the delivery, like preparing for the service, etc. So basically, order happens here, then the information flows to the kitchen. Kitchen sends the information to the storage, and from the storage we have supplies. We prepare the food, then prepare the food for like serving, for the service. Then we serve it, and then it ends. So we have like two different flows at the same time, and the most important flow happens here, the information logistics. Also, today's lecture is kind of the lecture that overviews and shows us what we're going to cover during the next weeks. So later on, we're going to study the inbound logistics, and we're going to stop particularly on the procurement logistics, how large organizations buy and purchase something. Of course, small organizations and households can just go to the shopping mall and shop, but the large ones have different procedures that are going to be covered by us during the next or after the next lecture is going to be about the procurement logistics. Then we're going to study the production logistics. In the case of restaurants, going to be the food preparation, for example. In the case of hotel, we're going to like prepare the room for the guest to check in. We're going to cover kind of different types of preparation, cleaning, the housekeeping, and etc. There we have, for example, the like preparing the room for the check-in, which is the longer like process. Then we're going to have like the cleaning the room which is occupied by a guest. Then of course we're going to talk about the cleaning room after the checkout, etc. There we have like room attendant. We have like a floor supervisor who acts as an inspector, etc. So this is going to be about the production logistics in services, of course. And then we're going to study the distribution logistics, which is going to be about how we distribute our product, information flow, and etc. And then we're going to study the information logistics. And of course, later on, we're going to have different aspects that are going to be very important for the supply chain management and logistics management in services. And hopefully you had a nice lecture, and I hope you have some questions. So if you have them, please send them to me. Yeah, usually at this period moment, we usually had like the Q&A session, but this is a lecture brief without students. That is why we are not going to have it today. So right now, I just want to give you an assignment. Please note that we're going to focus and cover different fragments and elements of supply chain management and logistics management later on. We're also going to cover the branch of logistics. Yeah, we're going, as I said, we're going to have procurement, production, distribution, and information logistics, but that's going to happen later on. For now, I want you to find, write, and learn the following concepts. Yeah, I hope you're going to read them and later on tell me what are they. Yeah. So also I'd like you to remember them by heart, because during the final exam and during the midterm, we're going to have these questions. Here we have the list of fragments or the elements of functions of logistics that were fragments of logistics when they were not integrated by one science, which is called logistics today. As you remember, at the beginning of the lecture, we have covered that. So basically, please add these terms, add these concepts to your glossary, and please show it to me, yes, so we can discuss it during the self-study, and hopefully you're going to discuss and prepare some presentations during the practical class. So thank you for being part of this lecture and participating. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a nice day. Bye.